a lecture from who I think is the most important thinker in the world alive on technology today. He will be on stage very soon, in about 10 minutes, but first, I'd like you to imagine that you are an alien from outer space, and you're looking at the dark side of the planet. 1,000 years ago, this dark side of the planet would have been pitch black. But nowadays, recently, something is happening. There are all these lights. Is the planet on fire? Is it blossoming? Is it springtime on planet Earth? We don't even really know, but if we zoom in the different regions, we can learn a lot. For instance, okay, who are the blue states and the red states? You see India emerging. You see Europe as a big Christmas tree with many lights and one big star in the east. You also see blank regions, like Greenland. Not much happening there yet. Or the Amazon forest, the Sahara Desert, where you also see certain natural elements sticking out, like the Nile River. And there are also social and political decisions that you can read in this visual. The North Korean border, okay, so very different decisions in Pyongyang or in Seoul, clearly. And one question I also ask myself, like, okay, you see all these cities and these regions of light. Where in the world is the biggest region of light? You would think it's a big city like Tokyo, New York. But it turns out that this is the biggest city of light, the biggest region of light. It's this region from Amsterdam to Brussels to Cologne, and we are here. So if the aliens from outer space would decide to arrive on Earth and maybe land, it might be on this rooftop. It's a special region, Eindhoven, the city of light. It's good to be here. And nowadays, every human being has to cope with new technology. Not only in the western part of the world, not only in these big urban regions, everywhere on the planet. And we know so little about what technology is. So to understand this, I like to start at the beginning. It is now some 4.5 billion years ago since our planet came into existence. And for a very long time, it was just this lonely rock floating in space. There was a geosphere, but it took some 3 billion years before the biosphere evolved upon our planet. 3 billion years. And 1 billion years later, people arrived. That's us. We have just arrived. However, our presence does not go unnoticed, because with our ingenuity and creativity and technology, we cause the rise of a whole new sphere on Earth. Chemically called the technium, some call it the noosphere, the technosphere. What is happening? And clearly, well, the biosphere evolved upon the geosphere underneath and has all kinds of interactions with it. But also this technosphere is emerging from the biosphere and has all kinds of interactions with it. Our next speaker already 20 years ago told us that we are living in a time in which the born and the made are fused. And as a result, also our notions of nature and culture are becoming complex. Because typically we think of nature as everything born, plants, animals, climate, the universe, whereas culture, that is what we do. But now this is, I think, shifting. And I want to get into this with a very simple graph that we can all understand. If I put on one axis born versus made, and on the other axis I would put controlled versus autonomous or uncontrolled, I've now created 4 quadrants, and I can put all kinds of things in there. So first, in the born controlled quadrant, you would find things like a rainbow rose, bonsai tree, genetically modified banana, or chicken. These are all natural born entities that we now control up to a level that you say, okay, it's not nature anymore. It's technology, it's design. There's also still a lot of nature, or nature left that we do not control. Think of viruses, volcanoes, lightning, or the sun. The diameter of the sun is 100 times the diameter of our Earth. We don't have any control over the sun. So, yeah, we can be a bit modest. We're not gods, we're not the masters of the universe. Then on the made control side, you will find things like a car, a telephone, a robot dog, or light bulb. Not too exciting, but in this upper quadrant, things become more interesting. Because there we find entities like traffic jams, the financial system, cities, computer viruses, things we made, but are we still controlling these entities? So it might be that we are living in a time where we used to think of nature as everything born, but this is now shifting to a new 21st century notion of nature as everything that is growing autonomously beyond our control. It might work, although in that fourth quadrant you have the mind shift, because there you see that technology also becomes nature in a way. And we typically think of nature and technology as opposites, like black and white. Here we learn the new dynamics of technology becoming a nature of its own. Some examples from our own life. I think everyone in the room here is still old enough to have lived without a mobile phone. And is there anyone in the room who does not own a mobile phone? Hands, please. I don't see any hands. Nobody? You all bought it? Yeah, okay, of course, I also own one. And I remember when I bought it, I thought, okay, most people around me have a mobile phone, let's buy the gadget. But nowadays, when I leave my house without the mobile phone, without the smartphone, I feel naked. I feel as if I'm missing a limb. And I quickly run back to my house to grab the phone and feel like a whole human being again. This technology is not part of my body, it's not in my body, but it's very intimate and part of my lifestyle. This all happened in 10 years. I thought it was just a gadget, it's transforming our lives. These are all the razors I used throughout my life. So I started with a simple stick, 2 blades. This morning I shaved myself with this 6-bladed battery-powered, LED-enabled monster that looks a bit like a vacuum cleaner. And I wonder, is this evolution? Or is this a symbol perhaps of the co-evolution between people and technology? But just like the bees and the flowers co-evolve. The bees take the nectar from the flowers, but also spread their pollen so that the flowers can propagate. We help technology to propagate. And where does this end? Because I read in the newspaper that biodiversity is decreasing, and then I walk into a supermarket and I see an increase of, well, technodiversity is probably a better term. There are now more patents known on the planet than species. What is happening? The financial system. We made it, but who's controlling this? Is it time that we look at the financial system as an ecology in its own right? And then what can bankers learn from farmers who have extensive experience of coping with semi-autonomous ecologies like weather and climate? And how do we deal with this phenomenon? I don't know if people know this image. This is not some star nebula far, far away. No, much closer than you think. This is a map of the internet. Every device connected to the internet plotted as a dot, and all the lines between the devices plotted as lines. And then you get this, I think, wonderful structure. It's almost natural. And we were there when it emerged. And as our next speaker will explain, I'm sure, this is not finished. It's all around us. It's almost as if we are the fish who don't know it's wet. We're swimming in technology. And we need wisdom. We don't only need technique and gadgets and science, we also need wisdom and good, great thinkers that help us find our path. I am delighted to be able to introduce to you the co-founding editor of Wired magazine. One of the initiators also of the quantified self movement. The writer of books like The Technium, but also the classic Out of Control that was used by the directors of the Matrix. They gave this book to all their actors to read this before we're going to do this movie. He also did a book, Cool Tools, and recently, The Inevitable. Please, a warm welcome for Mr. Kevin Kevin.